Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. This roundtable educational series that the ADA Education Committee has come up with, and hopefully you find it beneficial. We've got some great presenters today that will help us with giving some insight into what have been successful ways of not only bidding to host, but hosting a championship, and then also some game day experience. This will be just a little bit of information. This will be the last educational Zoom for the 25 year. We'll resume again in February with some other hopefully great information. But today we wanted to start with, especially this time of year, helping those that either have hosted or those who haven't hosted, and give some information on sort of best practices and how to go about things. And if you've done it 1,000 times, you can always pick something up. And if you haven't done it before, this is a great place to grab some needed and necessary information. We don't have a ton of time for each of the speakers, so we're going to really hope they'll go through a kind of a brief overview of how they do things. But as with anything, with athletics administration at the small college level, if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to any of us, your ADA rep, or anybody that's on the call. I'm sure they'd be willing to go into greater detail about what they've talked about today. So with that, we want to start off today with Austin Bennett, the Vice President of Championships with the NAIA, and thought it'd be a good place to start with to have Austin explain how to bid, how to get a host bid, some of the expectations that the NAIA has. I know that he's done a great job of sort of organizing that and putting some baseline expectations on everyone in the recent years. And also maybe a little bit why it's important to host if you have the ability to at your institution. So with that, Austin, you're up.
Thanks, Troy, and good morning, everybody. Excited to be with you, and I'll share my screen here in a second with a PowerPoint. But as Troy said, I want to walk through kind of bidding 101, specifically around the early round stuff. I'll talk a little bit about the championship side of things, but really want to hone in on the early round stuff and kind of the process, because over the last, I don't know, year to 18 months, we've had a few just changes overall. So I want to make sure I touch on a few of those things. But before I get started, there's two websites or two quick links, cheat codes, whatever, that I always like to give out to help you get directly to the information you need. So the first is NAIA.org/host, and the other is NAIA.org/coaches. I think those two links, when it comes to bidding or facility certification, or whether it's championship or early round information, from a bidding perspective or a host perspective, those are two real easy ways to navigate our website and get directly to what you need. So wanted to start off with that. I'll now share here real quick my PowerPoint. And somebody give me just a nod if you can see that. Good there. Thank you, Nick. So again, talking through kind of just how to bid and a few opportunities to find for some expectations. So starting off, just kind of the how to bid. So as I talked about, all championship and early round bid information can be found at NAIA.org/host. On there, you'll find a long scroll of all our national championships based off of season. So we have all the fall ones listed, spring or winter, and then spring. And then down at the bottom, you'll find our early round ones based off a similar format. For these, from a national championship perspective, on there you'll find obviously who to contact, you'll find the years that they're available, and you'll find the bid deadline on there. When you click into each of those sports, and I'm having some tech issues, otherwise I'd show you, but when you click into each of those sports, you'll be able to find information around facility requirements, around rights fee to host from a championship perspective, as well as hotel information. And that's very similar, which I'll show you here in a second, from the early round sites. But a big update from us is we are moving the national championship bid cycle to 3 years. In the past, it's been a 2-year process, or a 2-year hosting agreement. Moving to 3 years for us allows for us to better prepare and train a host. You think of it kind of that first year, you train them up, they go through it the first time. Then year 2 is really where it kicks in. Well, we didn't want the relationship or the opportunity for them to host to end at that point in time when they're just kind of getting the hang of it. And so going to 3 years for us allows for what we think is a better host experience, but ultimately a better student athlete experience. What it also allows us to do is to better prepare and secure hosts earlier in the future or earlier in the process. So looking at 16 months up to 2 years from naming championship host, and this move to 3 years allows us to really have less open championships as often as we have, and get out of those situations where we're announcing something year of or just before the next year starts. So really excited about that. Early round bids are just for that current academic year, as many of you know, and they all must go through an opening round or an early round facility certification. Early round bids for us vary by sport. So think about however many host sites we have. So in volleyball, there's 24. Soccer, there's 16. Football's a little bit different, but you have anywhere from 4 to 8 schools hosting on a given weekend. At the beginning of the playoffs, basketball, you have 16 sites, so 16 hosts we're looking for. And for those, there's a few factors that go into it. One is obviously the final selection committee ranking. We have felt, and so do the selection committees, that somebody's earned that throughout the year. They've been given that seed. If they're a top 16 seed in basketball, they've earned the right to host. Additionally, what we consider is where they are, where the kind of landscape looks based off geography. And so, as many of you know, we have to be mindful of finances and geography and things of that nature. So we also look at it from, okay, you're not only a top 16 seed, but where do you fit kind of in the landscape overall? And so we have had instances where, a top 16 team won't get to host because we need a site out west, or we need a site down south, or, we don't need 5 sites in the state of Indiana type of thing. And so there's a balance that we go through when selecting those host sites for the early rounds in conjunction with the selection committee. From a championship perspective, just touching on that, kind of the movement and flow of that, we're obviously looking for the best host possible that's going to provide a great student athlete experience. But what we're not going to do is really put it outside of the NAI footprint. So that's why you don't see any championships up in the Northeast or, in certain parts of the country. There are some sports where we really look for long-term hosts. Think basketball. Obviously, we've hosted in Kansas City 79 of 88 years. Baseball's been out in Lewiston, Idaho. Volleyball and women's basketball up in Sioux City. So for a lot of sports, our goal is to find that true championship experience, our home for it. And so those we look for that. But there are some sports like golf and cross country, and we've even talked internally about some of the track and fields and things like that we could look to rotate throughout the country to give ourselves a presence out west, Midwest, and on the East Coast, in a given three-year span. And so that's our thinking there from a championship perspective. But as always with all of this, we're open to questions and thoughts as we move forward in it. Okay, so moving to early round bids. So I put men's soccer up here just because it was the first one I clicked on and screenshot it, but this gives you a good picture of the men's soccer first and second round bid page. All the bid pages are going to look very similar, meaning that you'll have the sport and what it's for, but then right below it, you'll have the first and second round host manual, the official bid form and when it's due, facility certification and when it's due, and a list of the certified facilities for that sport. I want to touch on a few of those things real quick. So the bid is obviously really important. I would say kind of that's 1A. 1B is facility certification. So we bolstered this process over the last year through the work with NAC to try to bring up the floor as far as the experience from a facility and host standpoint that our student athletes and coaches get when they're on site at early rounds. This is everything from this really check boxes. So in soccer, for instance, does it meet the minimum requirements for the size of field? Do you have lights? In baseball, softball, do you have a tarp? Do you have all these from a host perspective, from a worker's perspective? Do you have all these positions covered, or will you have them all covered? Is there a video board, scoreboard? Basketball, do you have shot clocks? Things of that you think are kind of no-brainers, but it's something that if you don't have, you're going to get in a situation where you get to a facility that doesn't have that, and then the experience is different across the board. I think a best way to sum it up for facility certification is it makes sure that the playing field, the playing surface, the area is as consistent as it can be across all the sites in that sport. And that's a good step in the right direction for us. Moving down on this page, the event name, obviously that's straightforward. The number of sites is important. So number of sites that we're going to select to host that early round. We include dates, bid deadline. Obviously that usually is a November 1st for us, or it's usually the first of a month, but given that was on a weekend, it obviously moves to that following Monday. The bid fee, and then some facility requirements. So making sure that you have adequate number of seating, locker rooms, concessions, just things like that that we like to make sure that you check the boxes of so that we can, again, provide that consistent experience across all early rounds. And then ultimately, the championship sport manager and who to contact with any questions that you may have. We have moved all the bid forms to FormStack, so online. So no longer do you have to, fill in a bunch of paper and scan it and send it in. It's all there online, which I hope has made it easy heading into the fall here for those of you that did submit bids. It also allows us to capture and compare not only site to site, but also facility certification and cross-checking a lot of that stuff for when it comes in. From an expectation standpoint from early rounds, this is where I kind of want to highlight the NAIA.org/coaches. So we try to put information in multiple places so it's easy to find, or you find the way that's most convenient for you. But all the information can be found at NAIA.org/host, or it can be found at NAIA.org/coaches. And that's what you see two screenshots here of. I'll highlight kind of middle right of this gray box is host information. So on there, it has the opportunity to not only submit a bid and facility certification, but also has a host resources pages and that's what it takes you to there on the right. This has what we believe is all the information you'll need from a host to successfully execute the event on site there on your campus. Third bullet point down there on the right under manuals is a first and second round host manual that lays out all the expectations of a host in a given sport. To me, if you follow that, you're off to a good start and should have no problems. It also has information from pre-championship resources to site supervisor information, PA, opportunities that we have from a national perspective that you can incorporate your own into, and then some additional resources around signage templates, logos, stuff like that for you to use on campus, whether it's bracket boards or signage packages or, video board graphics, so on and so forth. For us, the expectations really come from preparation. And so what we've done going on the second year now is in the past, we've waited until we knew the sites for a given sport to host a host call. What we've done now and switched to is once the bid deadline passes, say we had 35 bids for soccer on the men's side and 31 on the women's side. We no longer wait until they're selected to just do it with those hosts. We actually now do a host call with everybody that bid. Our thoughts around that are it was a tight turnaround in the sport of soccer and in most sports. And you've got a lot of work and planning to do on campus, so we don't want to take up that time. But we also thought it was educational for those that weren't going to get to bid, even though they didn't know it yet. At least they're going through the opportunity and learning the expectations in another format. And so that's been really successful for us. And we've heard really good feedback on adding that piece of it. So all in all, from an early round, again, they're an extension of our national championships department. You're our sport manager, our championship host. And we have what we think are pretty clear guidelines and expectations to follow. But as always, we're here as a resource to be able to help and continue to improve and to answer questions on that. So, Troy, I wanted to keep it short and sweet for this. Really, those two kind of quick links I gave are the important ones for this. We're open to any and all questions, whether it's a sport manager or it's our director of championships, Mark Burchard, or myself. But I think from a kind of how-to, I think this kind of hits on it and hits on some spots with some really good resources.
Thanks, Austin. And if you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat, or if this meeting is being recorded, so if you need access to that, you can get that as well. Austin, could you talk a little bit about why it's important to host? Why if someone has the opportunity or is in a position, why you would encourage them to be a host site?
Yeah, I think there's a couple opportunities or a couple positives to hosting. One is you're having a heck of a year and you don't have to travel, and you kind of get that home field advantage, if you will. You get to stay at home, sleep in your own bed, etc. So I think that's probably number one. Number two is the way opening rounds or early rounds will be successful is by having early round bids. If we have to go out and solicit, it may be I'll go this way. If we don't have enough bids at the top, we go to the next ones available, which may put us in different parts of the country. It may put different teams in that otherwise weren't going to get in. So say somebody that we get all the way down to the number 47 team in soccer. Well, were they likely to get in the field? No, but now we have to use them because we didn't have enough bids. Now they're in the field. That takes away a deserving spot from another at-large team. And then I also think just the opportunity to spread the NAI message from a championship perspective and host teams of a very high caliber in a national championship setting on your campus would probably be number three to me. So,
All right, thanks. Well, with that, that'll probably is a good segue into our next presenter. You know, one thing to always look at it, in addition to what Austin said, is these kids deserve a national championship experience. So it might be the only time they get to participate in a national championship of any sort. And so that's kind of the focus, is to make sure that they do have that championship experience and it's a positive one. And speaking of positive ones, we have enlisted the best of the best. We looked out and wanted to get someone who really does championships well. And so we're going to bring in Chris Kraftick and Christy Brewer from the University of the Cumberlands, and they're going to share how to best host a positive championship experience.
Well, thanks, Troy. I don't know about that. We try hard. I know that. We've been fortunate to have a lot of experience hosting, and a lot of times, we've had a lot of double ups: soccer at the same time, basketball at the same time, baseball, softball at the same time. I think from our perspective, baseball, softball is definitely the hardest because of weather and the length of the event. But I think the thing to, as we're getting into soccer and volleyball season, those can be one game national tournaments for these people. And so the approach we always try to take is, how would we want our team treated if we're going on the road, right? How would we, if you look at it from the visitor perspective, then you really have a much broader sense of what you're trying to accomplish here. And what you're trying to accomplish is a national championship feel. And, these volleyball games, we all know that, we can fly teams we went to Montana last year and got beaten 3 sets, right? And, but they did a good job making our kids feel like it was a national tournament. But it's a stressful week for these teams. And so we want to, I think Austin referenced it, preparation, right? And like in real estate, it's location, location, location. Well, here it's get all your work done early. Once you put that bid, have things in place. And I think the thing we've done the best is in our communication, in our correspondence with the teams, so that we try to answer all their questions, right? The selection show is exciting, and all of a sudden you see where you're going, and everybody cheers, and they're in the locker room or they're wherever they are. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, how are we going to get there? What hotel are we staying in? And there's like a million questions that start processing. So what we try to do is take care of all those questions as soon as possible. Sometimes we're fortunate enough to kind of have a heads up and we know, and our packet, which Christy's going to share with you, can go out immediately, like as soon as the selection show's over. Sometimes we don't know, so then we have to do some last minute editing, but it's always out within 10 or 15 minutes. Christy has those packets ready to go. And so they know exactly, here's who you're calling at your hotel. Here's the hotel you're staying in. Here's the practice schedule. And so we spell it all out on the front end, and really try to eliminate all those questions for that traveling team. Because we've all been there, right? How am I going to fly my team to Montana? And last year, I think it was on 4 different flights, and you got enough to worry about. We want to take care of all those details. And so I feel like that's been gone really well for us. And I think just basically when they get here, gift bags, we've tried to work with local partners to make the kids feel like it's special. Pepsi works with us here, our local Pepsi bottler, and they give us Gatorades and all kind of treats. And so we put gift bags together for all the kids and make sure that they have them at those practices prior. We make sure our site supervisor, myself, Christy, are at all the practices answering questions. We've found that there's been it's kind of hard sometimes. I know the NAI likes us to do the coaches meeting the day before, but sometimes based on practice schedules, that can be really hard to do. And teams having to go to the hotel, coaches have to come back, do different things. So we kind of play that one by ear. But we definitely spend a lot of time answering questions with the head coaches and kind of going through that stuff. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Christy, let her walk through our packet, and kind of show you some of the organization behind our preparation.
Yeah, so like what Chris said, we try to send this out 5 to 10 minutes after selection show, and all I have to do is put in what teams are in what practice times, and stuff like that, which you'll see as the packet goes on. The packet that I am showing is from spring when we hosted both women's basketball and men's basketball at the same time. So as you can see, there's a welcome message, has my phone number and contact. As you keep going, table of contents if you need to find anything, and then tournament staff. So we put who's all working, their email, phone number, site supervisor info. So like I said, super easy if you do need to contact us if you have any questions. And then most importantly, so schedule events. I put Eastern Standard Time. These are all the practice times we had when hosting both. Obviously, you have to be super organized. As you can see, we went from a 9 a.m. day to a 7 p.m. day. But this is what I was talking about. Once selection show is over, all I really have to do, because I did all this work prior, is just really plug in the team's times and what they're doing. And then next one, this is the shoot around times and first day of games. So as you can see, the first game was UC versus Milligan. We try to be, like I said, super organized. The shoot around times at this time, they're showing the locker room at this time, warm up on the court, and game time. So really, hopefully there is no questions with all that. It's super easy for them to find that. Same thing for the next day, if they make it the next day. And then on here, this is where I put visiting fans. Will be like tickets and a link for visiting fans to find it there. What will happen when they arrive on campus, where to park, the warm-up access, if they're home or visiting, benches, what side that will be on from the scores table, and then where to give starting lineups. The next page will be when we're doing team introductions, prayer, national anthem, halftime, officials, our live stat link and video broadcast link. And like Chris said, I put that in there when we do meet with the teams, when they do arrive on practice day, we do talk about those things as well. I just like to put it in there. So when a team has a few days to go through it, they have the information in words or in their own packet, and then they can hear it from us in person as well. And then this is something I've added. So what I found out a few years ago with athletic training, when we send our packet out, they send something else as well. And when I realized that, I was like, coaches getting 2 packets they may look at one, not the other. So we kind of combined them just so there is like one packet and they have all the information in one thing. So we do add our athletic training information in this one too with their contact info. And if you keep going down, there's just a treatment form if they do want to add that in there. And then this is all our medical facilities that we have in the area. So urgent care, if you keep going, we have emergency rooms, pharmacies, and it has all their addresses, phone numbers, when they open, when they close. Next one. So this is hotels. One thing that we have done differently, and every time we do host a different sport, really the only questions or things that we've had to change was in the actual email that I do send out. When I attach this packet, I try to keep it short and sweet because the packet has everything in it. But we have added like your hotel information will be on page 14. Your rooms are already booked. So, and then here's like a code. When you do call the hotel, use this code. Chris, you can add on to that, but we've had some miscommunication in the past where sometimes teams will call the hotel when they get on this page and they'll try to book additional or like their 12 rooms or 17 rooms, whatever they get. And the hotel gets confused because they're like, we already booked these, not realizing that's the team.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it just wasn't, we've had some teams that just wasn't clear that would look, no, we've already got this block. All you have to do is call and take care of that. Like you don't have to do an additional block. So yeah, just to kind of clear that up on the front end. The other thing that we've done in recent years is we've tried to make the hotel lobby, and we've put a big sign with the team's logos in the hotel lobby. Again, when they arrive at the hotel, we want them to feel like, hey, I'm at a national championship. So we put we've got we just print big signs and they with their logo welcoming them. And that's kind of, it's crazy. It sounds like a little thing, but it's kind of a big thing. And you add up a lot of little things, it makes for a good experience.
And then the next slide is just dining in the area. This is some stuff I've added in the past few years. Because like Chris said, as a visiting team, you may not know the area, and so I feel like adding this helps them as well when you have to feed your team, knowing what's easy to feed them. And then the last, there's one more page left, and this is just our campus map when they arrive with their address on the bottom for the facility. So that's what we do. I've made this template through Canva. If you have any questions or don't know what Canva is, feel free to email me and I can give you more information on that. But for every sport that we do host, this template's the same. It's just the information will be different based off the sport. So like Chris said, if like I just did the work on I do everything early, and then every year, this is the same packet I'll send out. I'll just change the teams or the practice times based off of how many teams we're hosting and stuff like that. So it's really just making the template, and then everything kind of is easy as you host throughout the years.
And it's been great. Like you get on those host calls and we break in our breakout rooms, and very rarely do we even get questions if they've read the packet. It's all the stuff that's how we went about creating the packet was, what are all the questions we're going to have? Let's answer them in the packet. And then that usually takes care of it. So again, I just think the best approach when you're hosting, especially these one-dayers, is how would you want your team to feel when they get there? How would you want your team to be treated? And if you take that approach, it's great. And then also make sure your commentary, we've all heard great broadcasts and we've all heard home or bad broadcasts. Just make sure your broadcast is as neutral as possible, because all the people that didn't travel, they are watching, and that's something that we think's, I think, pretty important too. So, but yeah, it's all in the preparation for us. I have great people. Christy's amazing, but we have a great staff that's fortunately done this for a little while now and stayed together, so everybody kind of knows their role, and it's something that we really enjoy doing. So.
Okay, thanks, guys. Couple of questions might pop up. You said that you have you have a local Pepsi distributor that helps you with the Gatorade, and you're doing some signage. How did you go about getting, did you go about getting sponsorships for things like that, and what sort of the trade-off or?
We actually, we're fortunate we have a printer in-house that we can call our people and say, hey, we need a sign for this, or we need this. One of the things we've been doing too is like the doors of the building, we'll put those window prints on. So again, it kind of feels big. But no, the sponsor, now for the goodie bags, we've gotten some sponsors, and Pepsi's been great, and they have more than just drinks. And so they've been giving us, protein bars and all those little things. And but if you find people in the community, they'll be willing to help. You just have to go out and see it. And again, it sounds like a little thing, but when you give that kid that little gift bag, or it's sitting on the table when they leave practice, the response is like, whoa, like, okay. And if you add up a lot of those, it makes for a good event. So.
And really the only thing we put in there is like a Gatorade, a protein bar, like peanut butter crackers, gummies. It's just like a little snack bag.
Yeah,
So it's really nothing
they don't really
too
want
crazy, but
they don't want our logoed stuff. They'd rather have snacks and food. So that's kind of what we've focused on. So yeah, they don't really want anything with our stuff. So.
Yeah, that stuff's great. I would also encourage anyone that if to reach out to, if you don't have a specific connection with a company, to reach out to your CVB or local folks, because they do that stuff all of the time, and might be able to throw some things in, and they have some ability to give them restaurant discounts or things like that, or something about unique to your city. So if they have some downtime, they can go and maybe visit someplace that's sort of exclusive to your area. So I would encourage you to reach out to those folks if you have the opportunity to host. And
And the
I,
hotels might even print the signage for you too. Like we didn't need to ask them that, but I think they would have if we had asked. And then people in town, like we've got a casino right there on the interstate with a big video board, and they usually put a big welcome message to the teams, and just little things like that you can find, I think are huge. So
yeah, and it really does make a difference. And I think that be as creative as you can and work with those local vendors and see what, maybe they have some ideas on how to improve but I think that the casino thing's a great idea. Never would have occurred to me, so and maybe you have some electronic billboards or things like that on campus that you could also add to that and welcome. And so anything that you can do to make the experience a little more positive for those athletes. And I agree with Chris. Exactly what he said is that, it doesn't take much, but it does make a difference for the athletes and the students that are having that experience. And the one biggest piece of advice, I think Chris would probably agree with me, I would guess Drew Watson and some others, find yourself a really, really good assistant and stay out of their way. And
amen.
after hearing
Amen.
Christy present, I think
You, you can't
that's
have Christy, but find your own. But she's amazing.
So,
Was
all
it?
right. Well, I appreciate that. And now we're going to switch gears just a little bit, but still in the same realm of we're going to bring on Nick Rule. He's currently the commissioner of the Heart of America Athletic Conference, but he was on a campus not too long ago, and he had some real creative ideas on how to enhance the game day experience, and not necessarily just throwing money at things, but digging into again the little things. What little things did you try that worked? The little things that you may not have worked, but asked Nick to give us a little insight on his approach and some of the things that he tried to accomplish when he was trying to enhance the game day experience on campus.
Well, thanks, Troy. We're on our way down to soccer championships in the heart of America. So I'm at a quaint little Midwest coffee shop, and the internet seems like it's going well. So excited to be with all of you. A few housekeeping items. First off, shout out to all the Heart of America administrators. Let's pay for your ADA membership next year. Let's make that happen. So Troy, hold me to it. I love the ADA. I'm nostalgic right now. I see Ash with his mustache back, which is fantastic. So that's been something missing for quite some time. And Drew's wearing a hat. I've never seen that in an ADA meeting, so that's kind of weird, but it's good to see everyone. So many great faces. Jess, you've done a great job leading things, and Regan, I mean, you've just been incredible for this group. So this is my favorite group in the NAIA. So I'm excited to be back with all of you and share with you some of the thoughts that we had way long ago on creating an uncommon game day environment. It was small details leading to big results. And a lot of what I'm going to share with you today, some of what we shared with you today, we presented on a convention 5 or 6 years ago. But now with the benefit of kind of taking a look back and, it was kind of fun doing this last night, just like, all right, that kind of worked. That didn't work. This was pretty fun. So we're going to show you maybe some of the test cases of what worked and what didn't work. But we had a problem. And our problem was, we just didn't have really great crowds unless it was a men's basketball game. And even then, the crowd was just good when it came to, playing the rival Grandview at the time for the toilet paper game. We were just a typical small college athletic department. I was the athletic director and the only full-time administrator on campus. Everyone else was either a part-time administrator or had additional duties in some way, shape, or form. So we wanted to create something unique. And where did we want to be? We wanted to be an entertainment stop, a retention enhancer, and we wanted to be in a situation that we want to do what big schools did on a smaller scale. And one of the things I would share with you through all this is just, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. When we first started, we went to Drake University and just went to one of their basketball games, said, we can do that, we can't do that. We can do this, we can't do this. And we went to some minor league baseball games. We can do certain things. And but our goal at the end was to be an entertainment stop. And how were we going to do it? When I had started as a cashier, we didn't really have any administrative staff. I was also over student life and security on campus. I don't even know, honestly, looking back at it, it was kind of insane to take the job. It spread super, super thin. But we need to figure out how we were going to get there. And we identified 3 areas in order to develop this uncommon experience on a campus within our staff, or within our within game day staff, and frankly, and just the crowd in general. We needed campus connection, we needed staff, and we needed community connection. And we were very intentional about some of those things, and we'll get into that here. But building a staff, I mean, again, I was the only full-time administrator. That's definitely changed now. Grant is in a really good spot with the amount of people that he has serving the team there now. But we began as a team of 3, the AD and basically 1.5 graduate assistants. 1 graduate assistant who was directly reported to me, and one that the softball coach thought that was his, but we paid out of the athletic department budget. And so we had to kind of take her back a little bit. That was the athletic operations team. So what we did is we started developing really deep and recruiting students, gave them really cool titles and a uniform. What's a uniform? A shirt. And as we started to get a little bit better, a few polos. Many of those students became our first class of GAs, which I'll show you. But at its height, we had 6 GAs and 30 student workers with specialization in a sport or 2, and then 10 interns, which we called game day leads. We had no full-time assistant ADs or administrators at that time, besides me again. And that wasn't until my final 1.5 years where we actually first got our first full-time administrator that was just focused on the athletic department as well as me. So we had a staffing issue. And so we had to get very creative. And it's not just throwing money. I don't want to say, share that we were just throwing money at everything. I mean, we had a budget plan in place, but it was a lot cheaper having these folks than full-time staff. And I know it's a little bit harder to get GAs now, but there's still a way to do it. So how did we do it? The graduate assistants were operations leaders. They were interested in working in college athletics. The job descriptions very closely mimicked what a small school assistant AD would have. We would go on the small Division 1s and some Division 2 schools and look at their assistant AD positions and create job descriptions that had that exact tangible experience. At the end of the day, we wanted to attract people in these positions that were really, really energetic and really, really wanted to be involved in it and wanted to put the time and the work into it. We just weren't taking someone who, they'll stay around a year or 2. We wanted someone who was passionate about it, because it was going to be long hours, there was going to be a lot of work, and we were in very much a developmental project. Every leader oversaw an operation in a sport in an area, and every leader had an additional task. In addition, in order to make this work, we partnered with the faculty. We developed an internship program in a small rural area. We know that, we needed interns and they needed interns within the sports management department. How it all started is, frankly, I just went and spoke to a faculty meeting, shared what we're trying to do, and we asked for their help. It's amazing when you go to faculty and you, as an athletic department, and you ask them for help. It's like the cool kids are coming asking them for help. It's like, what's going on here? And they wanted to help. And it was amazing all of a sudden the partnerships we developed with the faculty side of things. All of a sudden we're getting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 interns who have to do this for credit, who are there's no money going in. We ended up paying a few of them because they were so good. And then we partnered with the field experience class where they had to get 30 plus hours per student, 15 to 20 kids. And our GAs, because they had graduate degrees, were able to teach the class and get able to get a stipend for that as well. And then it took the faculty burden off from an overload standpoint on the faculty member again. So all of a sudden we went from having 5, 10 people to where we got interns, and we've got a field experience class of 30 students that are disposable workers for us every single day. So how did we do it? I think it's marketing the job, making it feel big time. Every role was customized for the student to meet their goals and needs and our needs. We marketed the team as a really big deal, made it feel like a really exclusive position. High achievers want to be a part of something unique. We really believed that. At the start, we took anybody. And at the end, when we left, it was probably towards my last year, less than 40% of the applicants for just our work study program actually got the job. And in fact, I talked to the person who oversaw that, Bailey Rhymes, last night, and she said they were at a point in time where her last year they had over 90 applicants and they were only taking 15 or so students for this program that we had developed in the athletic operations. But part of it's their experience. So it was professional staff meetings on Mondays. We had everyone in there. It was very professional. It was expectations. We ran the staff meeting just like we ran our athletic department meetings. Like they felt like they were part of something bigger, which was really, really important. I just thought, this was from the presentation at the NAIA convention several years ago, but I just thought I would bring this back up because part of what we wanted to do in creating this great game day environment, which we'll go into more of that here in a second, was we need, again, staff. And so this was our organizational chart. And I just, to hone in on the point of, we were trying to get people that wanted to be in sport. It was fun reflecting on this last night. Lexi Benedict, right here, we actually had a game day, and then we actually developed a facilities team too, because we had tons of facilities issues where we didn't necessarily feel that the facilities team that the campus had hired was doing what they needed to do to get our facilities up to snuff and something to be proud of on game day. So Lexi Benedict, she ended up working for, when she was done at William Penn, she worked for LAFC and then worked in the MLS. Araceli Angel ended up working in operations for soccer on Musco Lighting. Daniel Terry is running Ballparks of America down in Branson. Alexis Gamaris works for Callaway Golf. Corbin Mears worked for Drake University. Alicia Cleaver ended up becoming an athletic director for a year at William Penn. Bailey Rhymes was the assistant athletic director towards the end of her tenure at William Penn, and Madison Lance is the assistant commissioner in the Heart of America now. So it's really fun to see kind of this development and all these people who are all in. Secondly, we needed campus connection. And this is where I think you might be able to take some things home very quickly and implement on your own campus. Again, just people coming to basketball games. So we looked at, okay, where can we build coalitions? This is where we thought of, we need coalition building. So one, we reached out to the Greeks. We realized that the Greeks, they love to have a rivalry with one another. So let's create another rivalry. So we created a Greek Shield Cup, and which the Greek organizations get point values for coming to games throughout the year and standing in the student section. At the end of the year, we give them a really big athletic department sponsored pizza party. We bought them some Nike gear, sometimes just shirts, depending on the size of it, with our BSN, some of our BSN dollars. And that became a very, very competitive thing within the athletic department to build our stands out. We established competition among sports. We established the Quaker Cup, which was a competition between sports to show up and support other teams. Traveling trophy created, and the team that won, we got them some Nike gear on BSN, on our BSN contract. Again, these things literally cost the amount of 2 trophies, right? And all of a sudden we're building something. And then we aggressively promoted it. We even posted it on our social media channels. We posted it internally on the communication channels within the university. And then the third part was created an incentives plan for showing up and having fun. It was basically just this reward system. When we first started, it was all on paper, but then, we partnered we used a company, I can't remember exactly the name. There's a few out there that are doing that now for check-in for points. And all of a sudden we have students that are coming that aren't a part of those other 2 groups that just wanted points. And they could turn those in for loyalty items, whether it's in the team store or whatnot. And building through campus, you can see some of what we're building through campus was, making it fun. There's a second picture in this, but, dressing like a coach night. And I had to throw this in for Troy because the Greek Shield Cup got so intense that we had to take it on the road. And that is the Greeks right in the middle at Grandview. And that was not a hassle at all, huh, Troy? But it was to the point that they were taking it so serious. It's like, okay, we're going to give you points for going on the road now. Now, I showed up for those games to help out because it's a Greek system at an away game, but it was so fun to see them traveling on the road as well and going to those games. Other thing about building through campus is we were looking at how do we build some additional traditions, because we didn't really have any beyond the toilet paper game. And so we did some research and we went down to the library one day and we just started pulling out yearbooks. What did they do at some point, like in the 40s and 50s and 60s? And in the 60s, we noticed this victory bell. And like, what is this victory bell? So we started asking a few alumni, what is this? And oh yeah, we used to ring the big victory bell on campus. It was in front of one of the dorms. And every time there was a win, like, all right. So we brought back the victory bell. And I remember I knew we were starting to make progress on campus and even nationally a little bit, because I remember Jim Abbott, so many of you know Jim Abbott, legend, right? He calls me and he goes, I want you to get more involved in Bosca. And he's like, and I never really knew a whole lot about William Penn before, but yeah, all I know now is you ring that ding bell all the time. Every time we went a game, we were ringing the bell and we were throwing it on social media, and our students enjoyed it. Our fans enjoyed it and started attracting attention. So building through campus. We also needed to build through a community connection. So we had strategic involvement with the community. We had an intern that went out and called groups. This is their job. Called groups, gave them the Chamber of Commerce list, call everyone, and how can we be involved? Like, so we took the Champions Character Program and tried to inject some intention within it. And it wasn't just like, hey, the coach is going to do this, the same thing they've done every year. It's like, all right, here are the things we've identified in our community that we need you as a department out there on. We listed them out and they signed up for them. So it's not saying, hey, coach, we're going to go do this. They could still do their own volunteering. But it's like, you're going to go and strategically do things. We specifically designed events for the community. Anytime we had a chance to connect with children, we did. We felt like if we could get to the parents' hearts, their kids would come to games. And then in community events, we showed up in the masses. And I'll show that here in a second. But every one of our events was really intentional. So again, the volunteering, that was, that goes without saying, but every year I would meet with the student athletes. And one thing I would talk to them about is we're going to do an autograph signing night. And when we're doing an autograph signing night, you look the kids in the eye, you give them all a high five, you smile at them, you tell them, thank you for coming to your game. And it all started to just really, really grow. And one of my favorite pictures is this picture of this football player. And this kid, they're just looking at each other. And it's like, this kid is looking at number 95 and he just thinks he's the giant, the biggest, the most amazing thing in the world. And I guarantee that kid came back to games. We invited our community to dress like a William Penn staff member or William Penn coach. And then, we passionately supported community events. And, when I was a student at the school, there was this really great Christmas parade in the town. And obviously the high school has homecoming. And so those two parades were going on. William Penn wasn't really participating in the high school one, but in the Christmas parade, it was just the band and student government. Like, we're going to change that. We're going to have everyone out there. And so our student athletes would go out there and they would be a part of that during that time. And they still are, they still do it. But all these signs here, the students didn't make those. We made them. That's a strategic marketing effort that we worked with our cheer and dance and everyone else. We're going to make signs. We're going to tell the community how much we love them. And there were dozens and dozens of those signs that were very, very strategic messaging. And so little things like that, building through the community. It also made our students feel more of a connection with the campus as well. This is kind of my favorite photo. It's just kind of funny. This is a young person dressing like an SID, sending emails at 2 a.m, long beard, 20 years in the future, and just a bunch of emails. So we love our SIDs. The results, we saw an attendance soaring, soccer went way up, women's volleyball went way up. I'll admit, when it came to ticketing, when we were using Hometown and so many are using Vivenue now, but we weren't quite sure that we had everyone at the time. So I would say all these figures are about 5 to 10% enhanced numbers. So it's somewhere in between that. There's a 5 to 10% margin of error there. But and then we saw ticket revenue up 28%. Other successes, we saw job placement. Athletic operations program led to over 20 placements of GAs and positions to full-time jobs. We started tracking the zip code with our ticketing and like who's coming from where. And we saw from 1 year to the next a 24% increase in 1 year from the zip code of the home area of the university. The president touted retention being, or our game day environment being a reason for increased in retention. And it can be done. Absolutely every detail matters. I put this picture in very intentionally because I remember this moment very well. This kid, he's on the far right, kid on the bottom far right, it was his birthday. And we found out it was his birthday. And I think it's every single time you go in and you talk to, when you see new people, you ask them who they are and figure out what's going on. This dad brought him and his friends, they were from down the road in a town called Albia, to that he chose to go to William Penn basketball game for his birthday. So we went and got them all hats, right? Made sure they all had hats and ready to come. And this kid and his dad came back to so many games in the future. And this kid ended up actually taking classes at William Penn, full circle moment, which was really cool. So some quick takeaways here. 5 quick takeaways. Market the job as one of the best jobs on campus. Make the GA position mimic an assistant AD position and market it that way to attract your high achievers. Partner with student life and the organizations to build coalitions for attendance, and then extend an olive branch to faculty to fill everyone's needs, and never miss a moment to make the experience on campus magical for someone new. And in order to do that, you have to know who's new coming in. So I know that's a lot of rundown. We had a short period of time, but wanted to save a few minutes here for questions, Troy.
Yeah, maybe talk about something that you were sure was going to work and then didn't, and maybe something that one of the high achiever GAs that you recruited brought to you that you thought was maybe a little bit messy and turned out to be something that worked really well.
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things that one of those high achieving graduate assistants had brought was a marketing campaign in the community. And at the time they had said, hey, let's be, Oscaloos's hometown team. And, there's this sometimes a weird relationship maybe everyone experiences with your high school and a small university in a small town. And so we didn't want to get into a war because we were trying to invite those people in. So we changed actually the marketing campaign from, Oscaloos's hometown team to Oscaloos's college team. And we marketed that like crazy. And it became a rallying cry in the community. So initially I was like, I don't know. But then when we adapted it, I mean, there were flags that were Oscaloos's college town and Oscaloos's college team. And it was really fun. I think we had a lot of events that did not work. I think one of the things that we did that we bit off too much early on is that we tried to theme like every single home game. And it was fine, but then we started picking, instead of theming, um, making big themes around every single home game, we started picking the games in a year that we really felt that attendance was going to be a struggle. So didn't have to worry about Grandview, right? That was not a big deal. So we weren't going to do any additional marketing for that game. But if there was another game that was on the list that we're, maybe not as much of a rivalry, there's not a lot of historical connection there, that's where we started pouring in our efforts. So when initially we maybe were trying to do all these special little things for these all games or even maybe big games, we realized we need to market to the games to where our attendance are an issue to make it that less of a variable from our higher attended games to lower attended games. And that was a really good change during that time.
All right, thanks, Nick, and thanks to all of our presenters and panel members. Great information, at least I think it is, and I've been doing this a long time, and I picked up a number of things that I really liked, and I'm going to probably explore a little bit further. And again, any of these folks that we're presenting today, and as well as anybody else on the call or the ADA members, we're always willing to share information and talk about how we accomplished something or didn't, or what went well, what didn't. This isn't an industry where, even though we compete against each other all the time, and sometimes very intensely within this group and within your AD colleagues, we're certainly willing to share information, help everybody out. Nobody's reinventing the wheel. We're all just sharing information, hopefully making it a positive experience for all of our student athletes at home or on the road. So hopefully everybody picked up some good information today. Next ADA Education Zoom will be in February. So look for the announcements from Nick Straw. And appreciate you all joining. And if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to me or any of the ADA members or directly to the folks that presented today. Thanks, everybody.